Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Just call me Swan.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond. Listening to us on fantastic radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands around the world, on the iHeart Radio application. Coming up on the program, we'll hear from Dabo Swinney again after Clemson opens up fall camp. We'll have a little post-practice audio as well from KJ Henry and also Jordan McFadden. We'll talk a little Clemson hoops. We'll hear from Brad Brownell on a busy day on the show that shakes the Southland. And again, the Clemson women's basketball team, their season comes to a conclusion earlier today at the ACC tournament as they fall to Virginia Tech. So a whole lot to get to here on the program today. And again, we hope you have been to our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. If you haven't, put the .com on it, doggone it, and go check it out and hang out and learn more about your Clemson Tigers. Plus, hear from Dabo Swinney in its entirety. We can't give you the full juice on Dabo Swinney. Why, you say? 47 minutes. You're looking at your clock. You're thinking, well, Swanee, you got 2 hours. You could give us you could give us the real deal, Holyfield. You could give us the whole thing. I'll spare you on that front because Dabo Swinney, that man can talk, folks. That's all I can tell you. That man can talk. So we'll hear from Dabo Swinney coming up in just a little bit, and we'll make sure that you get to hear a good bit of that, but not all of it. If I go 47. People will be fussing, and we don't want that. We want to keep you happy. So you'll get a chance to hear from Dabo Swinney here on the program today and much more. 803-450-0086, text line, phone line. Again, be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere, and tell your friends and neighbors and your friends' neighbors about the show that shakes the Southland. All right, so Clemson basketball last night, it did not look good midway through the second half of action. As a matter of fact, at that moment, I thought to myself, man, any goodwill that this Clemson Tiger team had earned over the past couple of ball games had probably faltered by the wayside. And instead, in the final 11 minutes and 24 seconds, the Tigers went from trailing by 11 points to coming away with a 68-65 victory. Clemson outscores the Yellow Jackets 26-12 over the final 11-24, and they come away with a victory, their third consecutive win. Again, it took a while. Not a good first half, not even a good first three quarters of the ball game for Chase Hunter. Not a good first three quarters, and really not even really a good game for Chase Hunter. He was 1 for 5 points. Alamir Dahl just 3 of 10 for 8. But David Collins goes 8 of 10, picking up 7 rebounds and 4 assists in the game. And they come away with 19 points, by the way, for Collins, and the Tigers come away with a 3-point victory off of Naz Bohannon's go-ahead layup and one with 14 seconds left in the game. 803-450-0086. I was going to be stunned if Georgia Tech beat Clemson. I still have said all season I thought that Clemson was a better team than Georgia Tech. And at home, I absolutely thought Clemson would win this game. It was great to see Hunter Tyson back. He scores 8 points on 4 of 6 shooting. I give you a couple of rebounds. Played 18 minutes, so great to get him back out there. But if Clemson lost to Georgia Tech in what I would consider a second consecutive game against the Yellow Jackets that the Tigers should have won, that was going to be painful. Yet, somehow, some way, Clemson pulled it out. They came through. They got the JOBDONE, the job done, and end up winning 68-65 over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in Little John Coliseum. The Tigers will wrap up their regular season with a home matchup and another winnable matchup with the possibility of winning 4 consecutive games to close the regular season calendar, as they will take on the Virginia Tech Hokies coming up on Saturday at Little John Coliseum. That game is scheduled for a 2:00 tip-off. 803-450-0086. Let me know how you feel about this Clemson Tiger basketball team. I'm not telling you that they turned some proverbial corner where they are all of a sudden going to be contending to make a run at the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament, but I do not deny the importance of this little run for this team. As I said yesterday, just simply the fact that this Clemson Tiger team right now has a positive momentum moving forward. And what if PJ Hall comes back healthier and better than before? I think you would be foolish to say that you thought this team could, make some noise at the ACC tournament, but I don't believe that it's an impossibility that this team could indeed maybe surprise a couple of people at the ACC tournament. Speaking of the ACC tournament, the women's team, who surprised us yesterday by advancing out of the opening round, were defeated by number 21 Virginia Tech. Clemson's season ends at 10-21. The Hokies shot 80%, nearly 80% from the floor in the first half, giving them a big lead. And again, a 22-point final margin, 82-60 the final score. The Hokies move on to the Atlantic Coast Conference quarterfinals. Delisha Washington finished her final game in a Clemson uniform with 19 points. Amari Robinson and Kiana Gaines each added 12 for Clemson, but it was not enough. It was not enough. Virginia Tech had a 30-point advantage over the Tigers in the third quarter, blistering Clemson and eliminating the Lady Tigers from the ACC tournament. So a good win a day ago for the Lady Tigers, but back to business as usual with their performance today against Virginia Tech. As for Clemson's men's team, again, a good victory last night. Come from behind, finding a way, scrappy effort, minus PJ Hall, 68-65, the final score in that matchup. And Naz Bohannon, again, was the guy with his go-ahead layup to win the ball game. Here's Bohannon and David Collins following Clemson's victory.
I just keeping myself to stay ready. Coach looked at us at the bench and was like, let's go. We're chipping away, keep chipping away. And I just got in the moment. We started to come back. The crowd got into it. And I don't know, I just was playing hard and I felt it.
Were you glad to get the ball there at the end there to try to win the game for your team?
Yeah, I was definitely glad. Going into the timeout, coach had called my number. So I was ready to step up to the plate and I delivered.
David, you've been playing with a thigh and a thumb, I think. How much pain do you feel out there tonight? How tough has it been to play through that pain?
I mean, when I'm out there, I don't really feel much. I'm just focused on, the task at hand and, trying to win for my teammates.
Now, as you're talking about getting into the flow, you got a coast to coast, and you even drew it behind your back.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what do you remember from that play, and how much did that get you going?
I actually remember getting the rebound, and then David looking at me saying, "Let's go," and then so I just decided to go downhill north to south and slow myself down a little bit. I got the charge in the first half, so when I slowed myself down, I was able to just react to what DeVoe did. But yeah, that got me going, getting that bucket.
For both of you guys, you're both transfers first year. To get a game like this and win it when you guys are down 13 and knowing what's at stake, maybe possible postseason, maybe get something here at home, who knows? What's running through y'all's mind as you're trying to extend your careers?
I mean, just from a standpoint of, you know, I've never been to the tournament. I'm not sure about Nas, but like, you know, that's a real big goal. And, you know, to do it with these guys, you know, that's even bigger. You know, I feel like we went through a lot this season with these guys, and we just want to make the best out of it. And we're not going to give up. We're going to keep fighting all the way to the end.
Yeah, so that's the second what Dave said. I never been to the tournament either, so there's a sense of urgency there, and like that's the reason I came here. So to playing games like we did today, and what better time than with everything on the line, being in my last year of college basketball, to be able to have a chance to perform and do something special.
Hey, what does it say about this team that y'all were able to win 3 straight, you know, without PJ, and we just got Hunter obviously back tonight, but he's probably not 100% either.
I mean, it just, you know, just shows the fire of the guys. You know, we got some young guys really stepping up. I think, you know, that shouldn't be overlooked. You know, they're playing heavy minutes, and they wasn't playing that many minutes. And to be able to come in like Ian Shefflin and Ben Middlebrooks come in and do what they're doing, I mean, that's just big time.
Again, that's Naz Bohannon and David Collins speaking after Clemson's 68-65 victory last night over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. A funny story. Guy who's going to join us in hour number 2 because Tim Brzee is working with NBC. We weren't able to get up with our good buddy John Blau from the Post and Courier yesterday, but he did ask Naz Bohannon and David Collins about the fact that Collins back in high school actually dunked on Bohannon when their teams were playing against each other in sort of a lighthearted moment. You're going to love this, the question and the response here.
David, this is kind of a random question, but I was actually talking to Nas in the preseason about that you dunked on Nas, I think, in high school. Do you remember that play? What happened, and what does it mean just to play with Nas?
I mean, this is funny because, I mean, Nas is from Cleveland, I'm from Youngstown, and, like, basketball in Cleveland is, like, big. Like, he's from Lorraine, but, like, kind of grouped that in Cleveland from where we're from. And, you know, we kind of looked up to those guys. Like, we don't get the coverage that they got. So, I mean, I always got to watch them from afar. And then when I got to see him in high school and play in one of their showcases, I was looking for revenge, you know. and I caught him slipping and got him one time. So.
You still have that on your phone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got that.
So neat moment there with those guys. Again, the exchange, both of them, guys that Clemson got in from the transfer portal to help this program this year. I would say of the duo, Collins has definitely been the brighter spot. And last night in a spot where he had to be bright, he really was leading the way for Clemson offensively, scoring 19 points on 10 of 8 shooting. Also had a team-high 7 rebounds and 4 assists, 2 steals, a block, and a partridge in a pear tree for the Youngstown, Ohio native. And again, I think for anybody who has watched this team, we've got the poll up. We got the poll up on our website right now. Should Clemson make a coaching change at the end of the year? Or would you make a coaching change at the end of the year? And I don't think a 3 or 4 game winning streak changes that, no matter what, because this team at what you would consider to be almost full tilt, full bore, fully loaded with all the arsenal, lost, 6 games in a row? Did it end up going to 7? I can't even remember now. I got to look back. Anyway, I think it was 6. But that's a frustration point. Yeah, 6. That's a frustration point for a lot of people because this program has just been that mediocre, average for the larger part of Brad Brownell's tenure at Clemson. And there is a portion of the fan base, and probably rightfully so, that would call that and label that inexcusable. That there is no justification or reason for Clemson Tiger basketball to not be better on a consistent basis. I understand that. You understand that. And so a 3 or 4 game winning streak, or maybe going to the ACC tournament, make a little, win a couple of games, surprise some people, who knows, still doesn't dismiss what this season has been. The concern, however, has to be if you were to make a change, nobody has to stay. I mean, that's the problem with this free-flowing movement of player. Nobody has to stay. PJ Hall didn't have to stay. Everybody can go wherever they want. They can all jump in the portal. So, you hate that because it almost at times might in the future, maybe at Clemson this year, who knows, tie the hands of the administration a little bit because you want to keep guys like PJ Hall and others in the fold. And maybe that's better for your program. I don't know. Maybe consistency and just allowing the guy to continue to go and go and go is good. I said several years ago when Clemson kept Brad Brownell around, I would not be the person to fire him. I would not be the guy to jump on air and say, hey, he's got to go. I've already told you I thought he should have been gone years ago. And then, if they're going to keep and stick with him, then I'm going to stick with him as well and just say, all right, well, the admin at Clemson knows a lot more about it than I do. And now a 3-game winning streak heading into the final game of the regular season for your Clemson Tigers as they take on the Virginia Tech Hokies at Little John Coliseum this weekend. Coming up on the show, John Blau in hour number 2. We'll hear from Dabo Swinney right around the bend as well as Clemson kicked off their spring practices up in Tigertown. I know there is a lot of excitement around this Clemson Tiger program looking to bounce back from a 10-3 season a year ago, a 10-win year for sure. The 3 losses being the larger maybe storyline, and then the storyline that's developed here over the past day or so, the story with Mason Trotter at center being out for most of the season, according to Dabo Swinney. What could that mean? I told you yesterday I would not speculate on it. I have some thoughts on it potentially, but who really knows what it could be? I mean, because in this day and age, listen, one, you don't want to speculate, but 2, given the mental health and wellness of student athletes and everything from COVID-19 to all kinds of things that people have dealt with, it really is one of those things where maybe it's best left to not speculate on said topics. 803-450-0086, text line and phone line. And maybe at some point along the way, we'll know more too. Like maybe we'll get some more insight into the situation there at center at Clemson and why indeed Mason Trotter is not going to be a part of the team for a portion of the year. So when we get back, we'll hear some of Dabo Swinney's preseason practice talk. We'll also have opportunities to hear from KJ Henry and Jordan McFadden here on the program, and John Blau from the Charleston Post and Courier joins us in hour number 2. But the topic du jour out of the gate, Naz Bohannon's and one basket, a drive to the hoop, a layup, and the foul, giving Clemson a 68-65 win over Georgia Tech. That play taking place with just 14 seconds left. And, as the Yellow Jackets are scrambling in the final moments of that ball game to get a shot up, I was thinking, man, foul. And when Georgia Tech heaved their final shot towards the basket, I thought, man, if this goes in and Clemson didn't foul, that is just deserved. That is deserved in a lot of respects. And it didn't matter. They missed, and Clemson comes away with a big victory just to put them at 500 on the season, take them to 7-12 in the league, give them a little momentum heading into the final game of the regular season where I'm sure fans will be excited to try to push them over 500. And then in the ACC tournament, depending on how the league lines up, we just still don't know what the pairings will be. Maybe Clemson can end up with some favorable draw, win a couple of games, and, at least make you feel better about a season that I have said now for weeks I think you're going to look back on and feel like you left a lot on the table, left a lot of meat on the bone, as they say on the golf course. 803-450-0086. With the win, by the way, Clemson moves up in the Atlantic Coast Conference rankings. They're 6th from the bottom, trailing Syracuse and Florida State, who are both 9-10 in the league. The Tigers ahead of a 6-13 Louisville team, a 6-13 Boston College team, and a 6-13 Pitt team. All those records are, of course, league records. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back with more, and we'll hear from Dabo Swinney on the flip side. Stay with us. Back at it on a Thursday afternoon again. Don't forget, we will have John Blau coming up in hour number 2. Always great to catch up with him. We'll get his thoughts on Clemson's spring practice and everything going on up in Tiger Town as Clemson gets set to kick off the 2022 campaign. Or technically, I guess they kicked it off yesterday. Dabo Swinney spoke with the media before practice. Here's what Coach Swinney had to say.
Coach.
All right, we're excited to get going. I mean, this is a great start. It's like 70-something degrees out there in March 2nd here. So beautiful day to kick it off. Got a lot of construction going on. Y'all been hearing the jackhammers and all that stuff going on. So we got a lot going on this side of the building. We're going to be breaking ground on the weight room side. Probably here in the next couple weeks or so. But so a lot of things going on in the building that's exciting and a lot of fun. And then, just always fun to get back on the field with your team. And these guys have worked really, really hard since January. I'm really proud of how they've worked. This team's got a great vibe to it already, which has been really, really fun. Proud of them, what they've done in the weight room, what they did in our all-in drills, and just ready to get on the field and get started. It's been a busy and fun off season with this group. I'm really excited about how our staff has come together. That's been a lot of fun, getting everybody on the same page and coaching the coaches a little bit and getting everybody locked in on what we got to do for spring ball. And we've done a lot of work, obviously from just quality control standpoint and those type of things. And all that stuff's based on last year's team, but it's still good to be able to learn from it and grow from it and kind of help you shape what you're going to do on practices in the spring. Also excited about our signees that are here. These 9 mid-years have really done a nice job kind of getting going. It can be a little overwhelming in the beginning for anybody, but they've done a really, really good job, and I know they're excited about getting on the field for the very first practice of their Clemson career. Then injury-wise, this is a team that I'm really excited about, first of all, because this team is battle-tested. This is a mentally and physically tougher football team than we were this time last year, just a more experienced group. We've got I think we got 37 guys that have started for Clemson at some point in their career. That's a lot of guys. And then we got another 13 guys that have been starters on special teams. They haven't been offensive, defensive starters, but they've been starters for us on special teams. So that's a lot of experience coming back that we didn't have last year. And, so I really, really am encouraged by the leadership that comes with that type of experience. So, the best teams we've had have been built inside out. And I think that's how this team will be. This is a very deep group. The biggest thing is getting guys back healthy. I mean, we've had a lot of guys this past year, as y'all know. We played the bowl game without 30 scholarship players available. And we've had a ton of surgeries, a ton of rehab, a ton of things going on. And then obviously, we've signed a class and got some new people, but just I'm pleased with where we're heading from a personnel standpoint. And then I know y'all all know about Hunter Rayburn. Certainly we knew that was a possibility. He really wanted to play one more year, and man, he was really just coming into his own and really becoming a heck of a player. Really proud of what he was able to do for us last year and how he finished. But the rescan of his neck area, he and his family just made the decision that it was time to shut it down. And he's going to be here every day. He'll be coaching and stepping into a different role. But that's definitely a loss for us, for sure. So we're going to miss him. And then from a other injury standpoint, guys that y'all are probably interested in, you'll see Landon Zanders out there in green today. You'll see Fred Davis in green. You'll see Dietrich Pennington in green. Landon will probably spend most of the spring in green and really in a good spot. He looks great. He's doing good. And when I say our protocol for green jersey is they're close to being full speed and full go, So they're working their way into that. So they do all the individual, they do all the team separate, but we just keep them out of the full speed collision type stuff, good on good type stuff. So we'll be able to get a lot done with Landon, but we'll hold him out of any scrimmage work or competitive contact drills.
So there's some of Dabo Swinney. We'll give you a little bit more of him coming up in just a little bit. 803-450-0086. Again, the situation at center. We'll talk with John Blau about it as well. Clemson looking like they're going to go into the transfer portal. They really don't, I guess, necessarily have to, but I think there will be harsh criticism for Dabo Swinney if they don't at least try. I mean, you gotta have the look. You gotta give it a run. And that's what I think most people will hope that Clemson will end up doing is diving into the portal and trying to piece it all together from that standpoint and protect things on that offensive front, especially given the fact that you've got DJ Uiagalelei who's trying to trim down a little bit. He's got the knee issues. And then after him, you're looking at Hunter Johnson and you're looking at Cade Klubnik. Again, I think everybody has hope, great hope that Cade Klubnik will play well during his time at Clemson. But I also think that there are a lot of people out there who say to themselves, and rightfully so, hey, look, man, I don't want that guy to have to be the guy this year if we don't, if we don't have to. And people want DJ to still, like, there's a contingent of people who saw DJ play a year ago, don't believe that that's what DJ's necessarily, or how DJ is going to perform his entire career. Some people think the pressure of just being the guy got the DJ, the pressure of NIL deals. Maybe this year he comes out and looks like the 5-star prospect that you all thought he was going to be when he stepped on the field. Maybe he looks like the kid that played against Notre Dame on the road as a freshman. But until that time, the thing you got to do is, and again, if he proves otherwise and it ends up being Cade Klubnik's team this year, then that's just the case. But, I think the best case scenario for Clemson is not Cade Klubnik taking over game one. I think it's the belief that DJ Uiagalelei is actually as good as you thought he was coming into the season. 803-450-0086. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back with more of the show that shakes the Southland right after this. Rolling along with you on a Thursday afternoon, Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan. We don't typically do this, but we're going to give you, because Clemson's in the spring, we're going to give you some full Dabo Swinney audio again after the previous part where he talked about some injuries, etc. Did not get into the situation with Fred Davis. And then we'll jump back with you here on the show that shakes the Southland. We sent it back to Tiger Town yesterday as Dabo Swinney spoke at length with the media.
Fred Davis will be in a green today, but he should be ready to go Saturday. He should be full go in a normal jersey. And then Dietrich Pennington is doing really well, and man, he's going to be a big shot in the arm force when we get him back, full go. But he'll do all of our team separate, all of our individual, all that stuff. So he's going to get a lot done. But we'll reevaluate him after spring break as far as where he is. But same thing with him. No full speed live work, good on good, but we'll still get a lot accomplished. So that's guys that you'll see in green. And then we have a group of guys that are in yellow, which are guys that are out of practice right now. And most of these guys will be out all spring as far as the protocol, and some will be able to do some things here and there, but for the most part, they're out for spring. Robert Gunn, our signee, our kicker, is coming off an ACL. He looks great. I think he's kicking Nerf balls now and is really progressing well. So Brian Brzee looks great, and if it wasn't for his shoulder surgery, he'd probably be a pretty good participant during practice. So he's doing great with his knee, but obviously we had to do 2 surgeries on him. I had to do the shoulder later on, so he's out. But you'll see him, that big bear, roaming around out there and getting better. He looks great. Will Taylor obviously is rehabbing, and he's I see him all the time, but he's splitting time with baseball too. But he's grinding to get back so that he can play some baseball and then be ready to go for football when we get back going. But proud of what he's been able to do. Trey Williams with his surgery and having that shoulder fixed again. He's rehabbing very well. So that's two great guys that are out, but are on their way to making it back. And Trey and Brzee at that defensive tackle position. Tyler Venables is out. He had surgery on his hip labrum, so he's doing well. He's rehabbing well, but he won't be able to participate in the spring. Same thing with Sage Ennis. Had to have knee surgery, and he's rehabbing well. And all these guys will be full go by the time we get into our May off season summer program. They'll be really rocking and rolling. And then Will Shipley looks great. There's nobody more disappointed than Will Shipley that he couldn't do mat drills. That guy loves every ounce of everything, but he's in a good spot with his rehab. Davis Allen, same thing, looks great. He's in a great spot with his rehab on his shoulder. Sergio Allen and his ankle, he's really looks great, and he's the guy that I think will transition to green pretty soon at some point during spring. So I don't know that he'll get to full speed during spring, but I do think we'll get him into green at some point. And then Malcolm Green is doing very well with his shoulder. So Kobe Pace with his big toe and surgery that he had on that, he's rehabbing well. So it's a great opportunity for Maffa to kind of be the guy this spring. He didn't really get a chance to be the guy. Kobe did, Shipley did, so this will be a great experience for him to catch up a little bit this spring. And then E.J. Williams had to have the scope on his knee, and so he'll be full go and ready to roll early May as well. But he was doing great, had great work in our mat drills, etc. But just had a little issue there that they needed to correct. So he's not going to be able to go through spring. But the biggest thing with him is just getting him healthy so that we don't have to deal with some of these recurring issues that had limited him this sophomore season that he had. And then I know y'all know that Mason Trotter missed the bowl, and he's with the team. He's in good standing. He's a great kid. He's unfortunately probably going to not be available for us for the majority of the season. It's not a legal issue or a university issue or anything like that, but looks like he's probably going to be out for most of the season. And out of respect for Mason, I'm really not going to say anything else about it. I'm not going to get any more details out of that on that. But because of that, because of the situation there, the good news is he's got a couple of years left. But the situation with him and then Rayburn, we're gonna very actively pursue somebody in the portal between now and May. But it's got to be the right fit. Specifically, it's got to be the right fit. Somebody that fits us, fits our program, fits our locker room, and not just a guy. Somebody that's an all-conference, multi-year starter type of a guy. That's a veteran. Because there's a little bit of a gap. We love our roster that we have in that offensive line room in particular. We got a lot of guys that we're super excited about, but this is one of those things where I say sometimes you can get a gap that we need to probably look at all measures to get at least a guy that can come in here and help us. But I'm excited. If not, we'll be fine either way. But would like to add another number to that position between now and the season. So we'll see how that all works out. And then that's it from an injury standpoint, and just take whatever questions y'all got.
So there you go. The opening statement from Dabo Swinney yesterday up in Tiger Town. He went 47 long with questions. That's all we're going to give you, though, is his opening statement, giving you the update on the injuries and all of that front. We'll have a little bit more of it perhaps coming up in hour number 2. But don't forget, you can also go get that full audio from Coach Swinney up in Tiger Town. That is available to you over on our website, clemsonsportstalk.com. That's clemsonsportstalk.com. 803-450-0086. We had another quick break here on the Thursday afternoon. Stay with us. Final segment of hour number one, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Coming up in hour number two, John Blau of the Charleston Post and Courier joins us. He's moving into the Thursday slot just for a week as legendary Clemson SID Tim Brzee is working the PGA Tour again. I think Tim might actually be working the PGA Tour another week. Like last week, he thought 2. He texted me this week and said 2 more. So I'm guessing that means we won't have Tim with us next week as well. Again, the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team yesterday comes off of a 68-65 victory, their third consecutive win, all minus their star player, P.J. Hall. We heard from Naz Bohannon and David Collins earlier. Here's what Brad Brownell had to say following Clemson's win last night.
Well, it was a fun last 6 or 7 minutes. I know that. Most of the rest was hard, but give our kids a lot of credit. We just kept playing. Tech is, they're hard to play against the way they play with all their zones. And, we didn't make threes tonight very well, but we got the ball in the middle and did some things in the middle of the zone. It was good. Obviously, Naz made some great plays at the end of the game. That was a huge key. I thought David was excellent, especially early. I thought he was giving us a lot of juice. And, we just kind of kept hanging in there and had a bunch of guys make plays or contribute at least to a very hard fought win. So, proud of my team again. And these guys they're giving us everything we have, or they have.
Brownell was asked about the last defensive possession and whether or not he thought about fouling, like I asked earlier.
No, we did not that time. I've done everything. I fouled. I've not fouled. And I fouled and lost. I fouled one. I've not fouled and won, and not fouled and they've made a 3. I've done about everything you can do. 20 years I've been a head coach, but no, we felt good about where we were. There was too much time to foul right away. And then they're kind of in the front court, and that all sounds good, but you watch as many games as we watch, and there's a lot more times when the ball's down in the front court where it gets 5-6 seconds, and kids are starting to go into their windup now, and you're fouling, and you watch guys give up 3 shots. So we had them guarded well. We were in front of them, and I thought did a reasonable job.
Brad Brownell was also asked about the final play with Naz Bohannon, who got the M1 bucket, and whether or not it was supposed to go his way.
Yeah, well, we had a man play and a zone play when we came out of the timeout, and it wasn't really a play. It was just concepts, and we told our guys a couple things to look for. One being Naz in the paint, and if we could get it to him, we wanted him to make a play, and he made a great play. I mean, I've told you guys, your kids have to make plays at the end of games more times than not. And when they make them, you look like a really good coach. And when they don't, then you don't. But really, more times than not, it's about a player making a good play as opposed to coaches calling some great plays. You're always going to have a player or two that you call. We made a couple of good calls, and we made a good man call for Naz and got him an and one earlier, a couple possessions earlier. But that was playing out of concepts, and he just did a great job. Finished a strong play.
Brad Brownell was also asked if it was a tough decision to play Hunter Tyson last night as he returned.
Doctors had said, hey, it's up to this week. We'll see how it goes. He did some 5-on-0 late last week, practiced Monday and Tuesday. And, Dr. Bowman, those guys gave him the clearance, like, hey, if he thinks he can do it. It's hard, though. He did pretty well. I don't know that he would have been, ready to play 30 minutes. There were a couple of times I pulled him out one time. He was gassed and, made a huge defensive error. And it's like, hey, you're exhausted. I got to get you out, And obviously the first time you go in, it's fun just talking to him. He's like, yeah, that first 3 or 4 minutes, felt like my freshman year again, a little bit where I'm all excited and nervous and, haven't played in a month. And I mean, it's hard. It's going to be hard for PJ if he comes back Saturday or the tournament. It'll have been 2 weeks. And, when you don't practice very much and you're not in a game, it feels different. So, I was glad that Hunter could play, this week so that he has hopefully a little more confidence and he's a little more comfortable for the tournament.
So they hear Brad Brownell giving a little update on the hopes that they'll get a guy like PJ Hall back for the tournament. He was also asked about the shot selection early on in the ball game and if he thought that Clemson was getting the best shots possible.
Yeah, I thought we were getting some decent, we were very efficient in the paint. Our 2-point game was really good. We missed some threes. And, there was a couple that were rushed. I'm sure there were, 4, maybe 3 or 4 that I can think of that I didn't love. And some of it's their defense. Some of it's us being a little impatient. And then I can easily think of 5 that were pretty wide open that, we need to probably make 2 more of those. Right. And, it's like, it's so small. You make 8, that's only 2 more. It's 35%. It's solid, in a game like this, out of all the ones you missed, but give them credit. They do a good job defensively and change a bunch of things on you. And, it's not easy to develop rhythm, and our guys just kind of hung in there. So I was very pleased.
David was obviously great on the offensive end, season high. Also drew a couple of big charges there at the end. He said that he couldn't feel pain out there at all, but has he been practicing one?
Yeah, he has. He's had a thigh that's been bothering him most of the year. He got hit in the calf last week. And he's kind of a big bodied dude. And he's one of those guys that he's so physical with how he plays. He's involved in so much contact all the time. Rebound, goes for every ball. He dives for every loose ball. He runs through screens. He's a physical player. And because of that, there's going to be wear and tear on his body. Just the way he plays and the way his body is. And so, we've tried to occasionally give him some days off. And was it last week? I don't think he practiced before either the BC or one of those games. He didn't practice either day. I wasn't sure if I think it was the weight game. I wasn't sure he's going to play. And, but he was better this week. The Sunday day off really helped. Got good treatment, just day of nothing, a little bit lighter on Monday, pretty good practice on Tuesday, ready to go.
We got to hit a break. Hour 2 coming up right after this.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set. Just call me Swanee.
Tigers time. Tigers time.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you on a Thursday afternoon. And normally, legendary Clemson SID joins us. But today, we're moving back a day. John Blau from the Charleston Post and Courier, a part of the show. JB, what's up, man? Glad to have you back on.
Hey, how you doing, Lawton?
Man, I'm good. I tell you, I know Clemson Tiger fans on the basketball court are feeling pretty good after last night's result, 68-65. Given the fact that midway through the second half, it didn't feel like Clemson was going to find a way to beat the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Man, they closed strong.
Yeah, I think they were down by 13 points. Just went on a run, and it was the 2 transfers, just David Collins and Naz Bohannon. Just bringing a lot of just physicality, toughness. And Naz Bohannon's a guy who's usually bowling his way to the hoop like he did on that game-winning bucket. But there's actually one coast-to-coast play where he, behind the back, dribbled it. I hadn't seen him do that this year. And so just those guys were absolutely clutch. And, this is against a Georgia Tech team that isn't having the best of years. Clemson's kind of cleaning up a little bit against teams that you would hope they would beat. But at the end of the day, just getting Hunter Tyson back, having not had him and PJ Hall, and to win 3 straight games and go into, the last game of the regular season with a chance to finish above 500, that's probably about as good as you could hope for a team that's had a really, up and down campaign with some unfortunate things happening injury-wise.
Yeah, I think that's the storyline of this. Not necessarily the fact that both of these guys are transfers, but the fact that you have seen fairly consistently with PJ Hall out, Alamir Dawes has had some big games. Chase Hunter has had some big games. Sometimes they've done that in conjunction with one another, but those two guys were both struggling. That Georgia Tech zone, I think, was giving Clemson issues. And here the transfer market does pay off for the Tigers. And I really like it for David Collins, because earlier in the year, I mean, he looked like a bright spot, and he had kind of vanished over the past 4, 5, or 6 games. I mean, he really hadn't been the player that he was at the beginning of the year, in my estimation, in recent weeks.
Yeah, and obviously you're going back to the Duke game where he obviously has that foul against Wendell Moore and takes him out of midair. He has to sit out a game, obviously for the flagrant foul. And, that was a tough moment for him. I know a lot of people probably would have liked to see maybe that be 2 games, 3 games for kind of how egregious of an error that was. But I can only imagine he was taking so much heat on social media. Everybody wants him, to be punished. That heat's on you. And then you're coming back and you're trying to play, but you're not trying to play super aggressive to the point where you're going to have something like that happen again. So, yeah, I can't imagine, what that's like. And yeah, no, he kind of broke out of that a little bit against Georgia Tech. 19 points. He was a different player. He was able to make some really big plays. Alamir Dawes hit a 3. Chase Hunter hit a 3. Again, getting more of those contributions from more guys than they had in the past. In the past, when PJ Hunter was PJ Hunter, combining people, PJ Hall was playing. That he would have a great game, but nobody else was able to do much of anything. Now that PJ's not in there for whatever reason, they're getting other guys that are stepping up in moments. And yeah, it was David Collins, it was Naz Bohannon, it was Alamir Dawes with a shot, Chase Hunter with a shot, some guys making plays, and they're playing better as a team right now. I think that's a big deal.
Again, he is John Blau of the Charleston Post and Courier. He joins us typically on Wednesdays, here with us today on a Thursday. And John, I'll pose the question. Look, we don't know what PJ Hall's situation will be up against Virginia Tech, or even, I guess, in the ACC tournament 100%. But, I mean, if PJ Hall comes back, do you expect this team to take steps sort of back to where they were during that 6-game losing streak? Or do you think this team might have found a little magic potion that could really make them a more difficult out, as they say, once they get to the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament?
I mean, you would think they would only get better if you would switch out a Ben Middlebrooks for a PJ Hall. Obviously, Ben Middlebrooks might be a great player in time, but a young guy playing center right now, you would think being able to bring in a guy like PJ Hall, who has a little bit more maturity to him, is able to, a little bit more of a dynamic offensive player. If the guys who have kind of heated up a little bit, outside of that, it can kind of maintain. But yeah, no, it is an interesting dynamic with PJ and with the other guys. The fact that, again, he kind of disappears and they appear. So it's a question of, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's an interesting game nowadays, obviously, because you're playing so much 5 out, or you're playing so much guard-oriented, wing-oriented style. And it's sometimes hard to play with a center. I mean, I'm actually a Sixers fan in the NBA. Joel Embiid obviously can stretch it a little bit, but it's hard finding guys who can play with him. I mean, Ben Simmons wasn't able to play with him just because there's too many guys that clog in that lane playing inside. It seems like in today's basketball, it's just sometimes hard when your team's so oriented around the big man, kind of getting that, rhythm and flow going can sometimes be a challenge. I don't quite understand it. You probably need to bring an actual basketball coach on to explain that, why it's so frustrating for some people. But it will be interesting to see, when PJ's in there with all the other pieces that are playing better right now, if they can keep that going.
Fans, send your thoughts and prayers John Blau's way. He's been a lifelong 76er fan. That is a life of heartache, but they're better now.
Absolutely.
Better
now.
Now.
I mean, obviously, the process was tough, and during the process, you draft Markelle Fultz, and there's Ben Simmons. There's all kinds of issues, but yeah, no, James Harden, the Beard, everybody's having a better time now.
Oh, there he is, John Blau. He's on Twitter at John_Blau. He covers your Clemson Tigers for the Charleston Post and Courier. And John, so you had an interesting question to David Collins and Naz Bohannon last night after the game about a dunk that took place in high school. Help us peek behind the curtain a little bit, and it's your job as a reporter with the Post and Courier. Where did you find out that took place, and how did you get that gem of a question? Because I thought it was a great moment. We played it earlier, the entire thing, your question and their response in hour one of the show. I thought it was a fantastic moment. I love when guys can kind of let their guards down a little bit, but how did you find out about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a little, I guess, extra effort play on my part. ACC tip-off in Charlotte. Nobody else, I don't think any other media was there other than maybe a Clemson insider. I think they were there. But I got Naz Bohannon 101 for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and was just talking to him about his journey and kind of, what it was like growing up in Ohio. And it got around to the subject of David Collins. Yeah, they're both from that same state. And Naz was telling me, I'm going to tell you this before he tells you, because I want you to know from me before he tells you this, that he dunked on me, and he's got this video on his phone. And, but at the same time, they're an interesting pair. And I'm going to write about this actually for the newspaper on Saturday, but I guess I'll give you a little bit of it now. But he, I think Naz actually tried to recruit David Collins to Youngstown State at a time when he was coming out of high school. Like that, he tried, wasn't able to get him. But then David Collins, when he came to Clemson, actually it was reversed. And David was the one trying to recruit Naz there. And so, yeah, they have a pretty good relationship, obviously, because it goes back to high school, and there was that dunk, which was a little embarrassing for Naz. But they're pretty good friends, and I think they're enjoying obviously this 3-game winning streak and be able to win games, and they want to keep it going if they can, because this is their last season.
Also, yesterday up in Tiger Town, obviously the Clemson Tiger football team got spring practice rolling. What were some of your big takeaways? I know you had a chance to watch just a little bit of the practice, some of those sessions. I mean, anything just jump off the page at you?
Yeah, I mean, Adam Randall is a big guy. I think there were a bunch of posts about this. This is just a random thing, obviously, but the true freshman wide receiver is built like DK Metcalf 2.0. I mean, just the fact that he is as rocked up as he is already as a true freshman is interesting. What he's going to be like. That's just the initial thing. But yeah, obviously the big news was Will Putnam moving to center. That kind of answers that question potentially. Obviously, Matt Bockhorst, they tried the same thing with him last year, moving him from guard to center. That did not quite work. And so now they're going to try this with Will Putnam. He's got a little bit of a spring and a fall. Maybe he'll be able to adjust. And so that basically makes the situation, I think the last time I was on your show, we were talking about the offensive line, question of what you do with the 2 guard spots. And the really interesting thing, obviously, I'm sure, I don't know if you talked about this prior, but the fact that Dabo Swinney pretty much put out a call and said that, yeah, we're going in the transfer portal, which is interesting. That's not technically tampering, but I would think that, if anybody's paying attention, who would like to potentially play at Clemson, and after spring ball decides, hey, I think I could have a pretty good situation over there at Clemson. It's interesting to hear a coach basically announce we're going into the transfer portal and we're ready to do that now, what that could maybe bring. So that was definitely a very interesting moment at spring practice, the first press conference.
Well, and that's what I said yesterday, because there will be fans, right, that if Clemson doesn't find somebody or doesn't get a guy and it ends up that the situation at center affects them, they'll say, well, Dabo didn't do enough. But I don't know, after what we heard from him yesterday, that there's much more you can do. I mean, if he just can't find somebody or somebody doesn't end up in there, I mean, what more can you do at this point?
No, yeah, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can't make players appear. I think actually my colleague Gene Sabakoff asked him, would you take 2 guys if they were available? And he said, well, I can't just recruit 20 guys. I mean, we have a number of 15 on the offensive line. We're down to 14. We're going to try to get one more guy. But at the end of the day, you can't, just bring in 20 extra guys. I mean, you got to have that one guy fill that spot. And he made it very clear. I mean, he wants it to be an all-conference type of guy. He said he wants it to be a guy who has playing experience, because it doesn't help Clemson that much to bring in, a guy who is maybe at Dietrich Pennington's level or somebody who is basically just another guy to fill that, then you might as well just go with the guys you recruited. But if you're going to, make a play, it's got to be somebody who's pretty good, and he's got to be in there because you've obviously got competition too. You've got other colleges across, the nation who are looking for the same thing. I mean, offensive line, defensive line in particular, has got to be two of the harder position groups to recruit just because that those bodies just aren't everywhere. I mean, they don't grow on trees. And so, they're going to try as well, as hard as they can to identify that guy. Hope there's a guy who, again, is either already in there or who will end up in there who is interested in Clemson. And they'll try to, get a guy that's a gap filler that kind of allows them to keep developing some of these younger guys and hopefully plug this one guy in via the portal. But yeah, you can't really do much more than say you're looking and hope you find somebody.
Yeah, they just need to make the portal like Tinder. I've honestly never been on Tinder, but coaches just sitting there swiping right, players sitting there swiping right. You've got a match. This guy's all
that's basically what the portal is. They put their name in, and I never heard it described as maybe college football Tinder, but you're putting your name in there. And coach goes to watch your film and swipes right, quote unquote. Basically sends you a message, says we would like to talk to you, and that's where it goes from there. But yeah, that's basically what it is. It's got to be a match both ways.
Did you ever think we'd be playing matchmaker here on the show that shakes the Southland? I did not. John Blau from the Charleston Post and Courier joins us to talk a little bit about the Clemson Tigers. You mentioned Adam Randall, and I retweeted the photo that you put out of him. That's the thing for me, just seeing him. And I told the listeners, I said, look, I don't think that's a depth perception thing. That kid just looks the part. I think the bigger deal comes down to how quickly does he, learn the route trees? How effective is he at running routes, at this level? And then if that turns out to be the case, he looks like a guy that you might be talking about in the fall for sure.
Oh yeah. Again, he looks physically matured to the point of he already looks like a college wide receiver. You bring in some of these guys and, it takes a little bit of time to get developed, to get the strength to be able to win those one-on-one battles. He looks like a guy who can definitely win them if you throw him up there. He's not the tallest guy in the world. I think he's about 6'2", but they say he's 215 pounds. He looks every bit of 215 pounds already. But the one guy that I'm really interested in, this is beyond the spring, is Antonio Williams, who is a guy that you talk about Bo Collins last year, the ability, the route running ability he came in with. Antonio Williams is supposed to be kind of similar to that, and especially in that slot, they need some, a boost there. So it's really interesting to see just those two freshman wide receivers, and then when Will Taylor comes back, what he looks like. But yeah, I would say in terms of just visuals, Adam Randall is the guy who really stuck out to me. And then also a walk-on running back named Dominique Thomas. Dabo Swinney made a comparison with him that he looks like Earl Campbell. Those were some of the thickest quadriceps and hamstrings I've seen in a football player, a running back, in a really long time. And he's a walk-on, but again, the situation, I guess I haven't brought it up yet. Will Shipley and Kobe Pace are both out this spring. So it's basically Phil Maffa and a bunch of walk-ons in the spring. So that's going to be interesting to watch that as well.
Swipe right on Thomas as well. So there you go from in terms of the Clemson running back group right now. And so, John, from that standpoint, I know everybody's going to want to know about Cade Klubnik. Listen, he was the darling of the Clemson fans heading into the signing period and getting him in campus or on campus and now at spring ball. What did you get to see from him, if anything, very much? And what can we tell the fans listening to the show today about what the future starting quarterback at Clemson, not this year perhaps, but future starting quarterback in Tiger Town looks like?
Yeah, the first day of practice is always kind of hard for that. You're seeing him throw on air, but he throws on air very well. I didn't see the air bat down on any balls, but he looked good. He looked like what I'd seen on film, a guy who has a pretty good arm. Ball has a nice spiral to it, definitely. But in terms of his personality, I guess that's some of the stuff that we learned. I think Jordan McFadden was asked a couple questions about him. And the thing that he said really stands out about him is just his leadership. He's already a very, engaged guy. He comes in very confident. He's already kind of leading his group and some of the players that are around him on that second, third team, third string out there at practice. And he's got a command about him. And those intangibles in a quarterback are important, to be able to lead, be able to be heard, to be confident. He seems to definitely have that. I think we learned that immediately. We've heard that from Dabo Swinney as well. It's just that he's come in very quickly, established himself as a guy who's ready to compete. And whether he, competes and wins the job, we don't know. Whether it's really there to be won, we don't really even know, because Dabo Swinney is still very positive about DJ Uyunglele. And he's lost 10 pounds. We were talking about that before. Actually, I think it's 15 pounds, what Dabo said, down to about 240. But yeah, Cade, he's definitely another 5-star quarterback, a very talented guy. We'll see kind of as things progress, what else we continue to hear about him. Be interesting to see him throw more to receivers. It was just kind of some dink and dunks to some tight ends, basically what we saw yesterday.
Follow John Blau on Twitter for more coverage of your Clemson Tigers. He's at John_Blau. John, buddy, we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always great to catch up with our buddy John Blau from the Post and Courier. And again, if you were tuning in to hear legendary Clemson SID Tim Brzee, he is working with the PGA Tour this Thursday, and I believe he said next Thursday as well. I know last week you probably are going, Swanee, yeah, you said 2 weeks last week, but this week he also said 2 more weeks. So I'm assuming that either he got another gig with them or his capacity has gotten a little bit larger over the next couple of weeks. 803-450-0086. One of the things that I did not get to ask John Blau about, but man, I'll tell you, I've thought more about this over the past 24 hours or so, and that is the move of taking Trenton Simpson, linebacker, and moving him to the weak side linebacker spot, moving Barrett Carter into that nickel hybrid position for Clemson. And guys, I mean this. Like, when it comes down to versatility and playing that nickel hybrid spot, I really felt like Trenton Simpson had a chance to be one of the greatest morphs between Dorian O'Daniel and Isaiah Simmons that you could imagine. Just the potential that young man has to play the game of college football is limitless. It truly is. And now, in this era of spread offenses, in this era of mismatches, in this era of misdirection that gives you mismatches, if you can have Carter and Simpson on the field at the same time, I'm telling you, that takes you, I don't want to say to a whole new level, but the versatility. And I think, the other thing too, and this would really be a question fit better for somebody that's coordinated defenses in their life. But if you imagine that 2 parts are interchangeable defensively, maybe in one situation, you might have had linebackers swapping sides of the field. You know what I mean? Like the middle linebacker is going to stay in the middle and the other 2 guys might. In this case, maybe there's some chances that Clemson doesn't have to do that. And because of that, you can mix up your looks per se, and maybe you don't tip your cap. I think Clemson can take advantage of those 2 guys being, rushers at times off the edge. I mean, there are a lot of positives, in my opinion, coming into Clemson in 2022, new defensive coordinator, where there's not a ton of film, and the possibility of executing this package where you've got Barrett Carter and Trenton Simpson, maybe even Malcolm Green mixed into the mix. Maybe Malcolm Green is up more in the secondary. Who knows at this point? But, those two guys, along with Andrew Makuba, maybe RJ Mickens, it's really hard not to like the possibility of what could take place and what this defense could look like. And I think, and look, I don't know Wes Goodwin from a house cat, but I'll tell you this, I do think that Wes Goodwin wants to be a defensive-minded guy who is known as being the aggressor that takes the fight to the offense. I don't think he wants to be seen as somebody that sits back and allows the offense to dictate what comes next. And the more versatile, my assumption is, this is an assumption here, my assumption is that the more versatile you are, the better opportunity or the more likely, I don't even know how you say this. Let me think how this should be worded. Is it the more likelihood?
English. Who needs that? I'm never going to England.
I mean, the more likely that you can scheme and present looks that are more challenging to counter. And so if that's the case, and if this works out and these guys stay healthy and you get Barrett Carter and Trenton Simpson out there on the field together, I mean, I think you're gonna see, when you think about that Georgia team this past year and the way some of those guys, Nolan Smith and others, were just flying, to Kobe Dean, or just flying around the field defensively. Like I think you're gonna see that from Clemson this year with this possible linebacker package that could be coming together. And it's a little bit scary, I think, because I'm going to make a projection here on March 3rd, 2022. And because I do nearly 250 radio shows a year, I will forget I said this. So you guys hold me to it.
Okie dokie.
I think that not one, but both Trenton Simpson and Barrett Carter have interception returns for touchdowns this season, as Clemson is able to take advantage of those guys and the way they play the game, and probably end up getting some situations where a quarterback thinks he's seeing one thing, goes to make like a hot route or something, and then the other guy on the other side steps in front and takes the ball to the house. Like, I think that is something that you're going to see this year. I'm going to say it. Carter and Simpson. That sounds like Ashford and Simpson. Carter and Simpson. The old R&B group, right? Ashford and Simpson, isn't that right? Carter and Simpson. Both pick sixes in 2022. Mark it down, March 3rd. Swanee said it. Put it in the books. That is happening.
Are you nuts?
I said it. It's happening. Mark it down. Put it in the books. With a quick break, we'll bounce back with more here on the show that shakes the Southland. You're listening to Clemson Sports Talk. The show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, on a Thursday afternoon. Yesterday, of course, we heard extensively in hour number one from Dabo Swinney, but that was his opening statement. We'll give you a little bit more of Dabo here in this segment of the program as well. So one of the things he talked about, or one of the people he talked about, is former five-star offensive lineman Tristan Lee and Lee's development.
Well, he's first of all, he's a great kid, and he is a worker. But man, he came in here so far behind. I mean, he'd be the first one to tell you. He was not only was he physically behind, he was mentally behind, and just overwhelmed. There's so much, and we know who he is as a player. But what you saw on tape was the guy that knew what he was doing and, was playing at a different level and those type of things, but he was playing with a lot of confidence. But he had COVID hit, he didn't have a season, he got behind, there was just a lot. But that kid has worked his tail off since he got here in the summer. He did a great job in the power hour. His numbers, he has transformed himself physically from a strength conditioning standpoint, and then what he's doing with his body composition. He's got all the tools. So the next step, to answer your question, is now let's go be a more fluid, more confident, efficient, productive offensive lineman than anything we've seen. So it was pretty easy to see in camp that he wasn't going to be ready. So he's been on the shelf. Now we get a chance to go really get some very good work and really work with him. And I'm excited about it because his attitude is tremendous. And he's a guy that if he will keep progressing based on what he's done in a short amount of time and continue that path, by the time we get to August, he's a guy that hopefully can help.
Dabo Swinney there talking about Tristan Lee. He was also asked about the expectations around Cade Klubnik and how it kind of compared to Deshaun or even Trevor Lawrence in terms of I need to stop myself in terms of being the freshman coming in and the expectations not having to be like Deshaun and or Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, he's similar to all those guys, Trevor, Deshaun, DJ, all of them were mid-years, and just like, Cade coming in here, no different there. The expectation is he comes in here and he's the guy that we recruited, and, he's a leader, he's a detailed preparer, and he takes the field and with great preparation day in and day out, and he learns from his mistakes and he just gets better as he goes. That was the expectation for Deshaun, it was the expectation for Trevor, and expectation for DJ, no different. So just show up and let's go see where he is. Good news for him, he's going to get a lot of reps. So right out of the gate here, he'll get a ton of work, and I'm excited to see him on the field. It's always fun to see those new mid-years, and they have their first practice. There's a lot on those guys, even they're all really talented young football players. This is a big day for them.
Dabo Swinney calling yesterday a big day for those young guys. 803-450-0086. But it's not just those young guys. Clemson's transitioning some of the coaching staff. Obviously, Thomas Austin, the new offensive line coach after Robbie Caldwell retired. Nick Eason joining the staff from Auburn after Todd Bates left to go to Oklahoma. Here's some of what Dabo Swinney had to say about the staff and what he's seen from those guys.
Yeah, Thomas has been great, and and that was one of the reasons I went and hired him back from Georgia State. Kind of knowing what was coming down the line there, and it's been great. I mean, he's just a natural. He's a great player. He's a captain. He's a great leader, and he's the exact same as a coach. I mean, he's just a very detailed guy, unbelievable energy, and it's going to be fun. And not only that, getting Brandon Thomas back as a GA, that's two pretty good dudes out there, coaching this offensive line. So I'm excited about the two of them being able to actually coach them on the field. But man, Thomas has done a really, really, really good job. I've been really proud of him, and he's going to be a special coach.
803-450-0086. All right, we'll leave Dabo Swinney there for now, and I'm sure we might squeeze some more Dabo in tomorrow on the program. I will ask you, though, text us, 803-450-0086, or hit us up on Twitter at Clemson Sports. What is the storyline that you are most looking forward to? One of the neat things that I saw yesterday, and boy, this is where I need my buddies from the Old Man Squad. That's my Fortnite crew, because they're a little more in tune. They're a little more in tune with the Avengers than I am, although I have seen all the Avengers movies. I watched them in chronological order. I kind of made that my goal. Not chronological order of their release, but order of if they actually took place in a space-time continuum, I guess is how the best way to put it. And it took me a while to get through it, but I did. But yesterday after practice, KJ Henry said that they were calling themselves, instead of the Power Rangers, these guys were the Avengers. And that they all were individual Avengers and that he was Captain America. And then later, KJ tweeted, "Avengers Assemble," with Captain America. Brian Brzee fires back a gif of the Hulk. Perfect. Xavier Thomas goes with Thor. Rook Orororo goes with the Black Panther. Itanosa Rubin, E.T., goes with, this is one I don't know his name, like the Hulk guy. But I know that can't be the right name because Trey Williams is Hawkeye, so I know the other guy's name's not Hawk Guy. So let me see if I can put it in my Google machine here. Falcon. Okay, so Hawk Guy. There's Hawkeye, who's like kind of like Deadeye with an arrow. And then there's Falcon. Then there's Captain Marvel, Justin Maskell. Then you got Spider-Man, Miles Murphy. And then you got, let's see, Tyler Davis is Iron Man. I think that might be all. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Those guys going with the Avengers theme this year. Final segment coming up here on the show that shakes the Southland right after this.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answers to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Thursday afternoon. Lawton Swan with you again. Thank you for being a part of this show. Thank you for helping us grow. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends and neighbors and your friends' neighbors. Head over to our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Great coverage. An opportunity to hear from Dabo Swinney, Monty Lee in an exclusive interview, plus recruiting notes, where just $63.17 gets you 1 year of coverage. That's right, I said it. $63.17. That is 17 cents a day to stand behind this program and to say, I got your back, Swanee. I'm with you. And we do appreciate everybody who's already a subscriber, and we are working to do a better job every day to make our site even more, even better, I guess I should say, for you guys to be a part of. Don't forget the Clemson Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks kick up their annual rivalry tomorrow. Friday night's matchup on the Diamond at Founders Park, 7 p.m. Saturday over at Segra Park in Columbia at 4 o'clock. And then on Sunday, a 3 o'clock start from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. You can watch those games on the ACC Network Plus. Saturday's game now on the ACC Network Extra, and Sunday's game going to be on the ACC Network. So your Clemson Tigers will take on the South Carolina Gamecocks in a 3-game series. South Carolina enters the matchup 7-1. Clemson enters the game 8-0. So something looks like it's got to give this weekend. Clemson and South Carolina have played each other more than I guess any other opponents. They played 327 times dating back to 1899. The two have met at least once every year since 1945, with the exception of 1984. That means the two teams have met each of the last 37 years. The season matchups went to a 3-game weekend series format back in 2010 after the two teams played 4 midweek games for decades. South Carolina leads the series 7-5 in regular season neutral site contest since 2010. Clemson leads the series at Doug Kingsmore Stadium 54-29. Doug Kingsmore Stadium opened back in 1970. The Gamecocks defeated the Tigers 8-5 in the only previous meeting at Segra Park back in February 29th, 2020. That's like moments before COVID-19, to be honest with you. Clemson will be the home team in that matchup at Segra Park and will occupy the third base dugout for that contest. I don't know if there are any tickets available, but I bet there are tickets on the secondary market that I complained about yesterday as part of the reason I think you see empty seats at some of these venues. And again, all of that starts tomorrow over at Founders Park. All right, a couple of final notes here. Again, the Clemson Tiger women's season concludes as they fall to Virginia Tech at the ACC tournament. We'll see what happens with the Lady Tigers on that front with Amanda Butler. Again, I don't think they'll dismiss Amanda Butler because of the McDonald's All-American recruit they have coming in. But if they did get rid of Amanda Butler, it's not like you could be surprised given the results they had this season. Certainly injuries were a problem for the Clemson Tigers this year. We shall see what happens on that front. Some other news, not breaking per se, but Kenny Pickett, his hands, apparently like his heart, smaller than any current NFL quarterbacks, measuring just 8.5 inches. Those would be the smallest hands in the NFL. And again, leaving his Pitt Panthers out to dry in their bowl game late last year, in my estimation. Hand size, heart size, who knew? One and the same, in my opinion. 803-450-0086, text line and phone line. Again, you can be a part of this program anytime, any place, anywhere. And we talk probably, if this is your first time listening, we talk probably 95% of the time about your Clemson Tigers, who take on the Virginia Tech Hokies Saturday in their final game of the regular season up at Little John Coliseum. 2 o'clock to start on the ACC Network Extra. So Clemson will finish the season on the extra package. Not on the standard, on the extra. And some of those I can't even get because they're really on a regional sports network. You know I'm a big fan of the regional sports network. One final thing, quarterback Spencer Rattler called it a great decision to go to South Carolina. He said, I feel totally refreshed to be at the new university, a great university like this. I feel very comfortable here. I made a great decision. I am very happy in this decision. Of all the teams on Clemson's schedule, there are a lot to talk about, but I don't know that there's any that's going to be more interesting than seeing Spencer Rattler, the former Oklahoma quarterback and former projected number 1 pick in the NFL draft, playing for the South Carolina Gamecocks, and what he can do for South Carolina this year as they enter the second year under Shane Beamer. So, again, it's not like this is breaking news that Spencer Rattler's in Columbia, but what does make it interesting is to see how his year unfolds in the Midlands from this observer's perspective. We got to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!